Yay!
How you doing? All right.
I'm good.
We
How are
made it
you?
work. We got it in the end.
We got it. We got it.
We
It's
got
I'm
it.
kind
We
of
got it.
sort of used to the technical difficulties now at this stage.
It still says the comments are off down the bottom.
Well, I
I
have
don't
the
know.
comments turned off. That's on
All
purpose.
right. For those little troublesome questions, eh?
Yeah, the ones that throw you off. But
Yeah.
they can. Everyone that watches can put in the question into the question box, and then I ask them at the end. So the
Right. Okay.
genuine questions do get asked.
No
How are
worries.
you?
No worries. I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Like as good as can be in the circumstances.
Hey, everyone complains about you don't have enough time to do stuff. Well, now you got all the time in the world, So a lot can get done if you use it wisely.
Absolutely. So what kind of stuff are you spending your days doing?
Drinking a lot of coffee and
Yeah.
trying to, well, no, not even learn a new language, but I used to speak fluent French as a kid,
Wow.
and I just got lazy and just, like most Brits or Americans do, they just think that our language is the most important. So yeah, I'm trying to touch up on my French again. Signed up to a few psychology courses on Udemy. It's like
Yeah.
Open University. Yeah, you can get a lot of free knowledge on these platforms. So I'm just utilizing what's there, and handstands as well. Someone asked me this the other day. I've been practicing handstands.
Shit, you're really getting into this, aren't you? You're really taking
Yeah. Well,
advantage of
listen,
the time.
everyone complains about not having time to do stuff, and I'm just trying to utilize it.
So
Not
what
be
is it
too
about
lazy.
what is it about psychology? Or is that kind of an area where you've got a little bit of an interest, or where did that come from?
Well, yeah, definitely an interest. I mean, if you think about everything we do is based on our mind. Everything you do physically starts with a thought, and I've always been like, even in my fight career, I've always tried to use psychology to get an advantage. More so, it started off because I just enjoyed toying with people's emotions in that sort of competitive way. I think most young guys did that on the playground growing up, or I come from a basketball background. Yeah, I know. The geese. Yeah, most people come from a competitive. I came from a competitive basketball background, and it was all trash talk on the court. And the way to translate that without sounding forced in the fight game, which I think a lot of guys nowadays do, guys and girls, they tend to force trash talk. But I think the psychology element is just exciting to me. So I just thought, well, let me try and see it from more of a professional understanding, and maybe I can apply that in my career somehow, or just in life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what you touched on there, professional basketball player. It's a big transition, or is it? Is it as different as we think it might be? Basketball to fighting.
Well, it depends on what position you play. So if you're a
Yeah.
point guard, then yeah, it's very different. But I was a power forward / center my whole career, always being the bigger guy. So it's very physical down in the post. And I used to thrive off of those big tussles, the clashes, hustling for the ball and catching an elbow in the mouth or something. So I was never afraid to get stuck in. And I guess the transition was quite sweet for me. It was easy. In terms of footwork, if there's anybody that's watching now that plays basketball and is interested in transitioning to like martial arts in some way, the footwork is almost the same. It's very, very similar to boxing if you're playing a defensive role. And I find it really easy, really, really easy. Natural athleticism is always going to translate well into a sport such as MMA or kickboxing,
And with basketball, was it a lot of it to do with your height? Is that why sometimes we see with basketball players, if they've naturally been given great height, they're lured into basketball, or they're kind of, a coach will come to them and say, you should try out. What was it for you? How did you get into basketball? And then eventually move on to make the decision to go into fighting.
What first got me into it? I remember, so there used to be this show on Channel 4 called NBA XXL. The real ones will know what I'm talking about. It used to be on it used to be on a Saturday morning. like around lunchtime, I think, or like quarter to 12 or something like that. And it was like a magazine show hosted by a British guy named Mark Webster and two American guys. One of them was called Scoop Jackson. Can't remember the other guy's name, but they were real characters, you know. And it was the only program that broadcast professional basketball other than like Eurosport used to do, like the Euro League and stuff like that. But no one was interested in that. We were interested in Michael Jordan, you know.
Yeah.
So it was it's like 45-minute show or 50-minute show with the adverts. And a lot of the adverts used to be basketball based. So it'd be Adidas or a Nike advert or something like that. So it was like the holy grail of basketball broadcasting at the time. And I used to live for the Saturday mornings. So that kind of got me into it. And then obviously trying to do it in school. The school programs don't do basketball like they do in America. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love, you know, my walls were covered in the posters. Most kids have got like One Direction or something on their wall. And I've got, you know, Michael Jordan or Sean Kemp or Hakeem Olajuwon. And that was kind of my like passion, my dream, my goal. And I was just in love with it. I was obsessed. And it's true. You know, you have to be obsessed about something to be good at it. And I was literally obsessed. Trading cards, everything, you know, everything. Everything was basketball merchandise.
The whole lot, like, I mean, you know, I think for any kid growing up to have a healthy obsession with, you know, something as good as sports is always great. And there's always a small few that can go on to turn it into a career or to, you know, really get some valuable life experiences from it. Mm-hmm. What was the decision to stop? And then how did the fighting come about?
That was, I mean, it all happened really quickly. I've always been aware of what's worth pursuing and what's not. And I think basketball had just reached the point where I got as far as I could. And then I learned the politics within the game, you know. For those who don't know, basketball is not the #1 sport here in the UK. So you kind of need to go to America. And I went to America. I tried out with the Los Angeles Lakers, so I got as far as I could on my own. But then you need that sort of that backing with like a Division I scholarship. Usually, that's where the stars are made. Actually, stars are made in high school in America. They're made in high school because they broadcast some of these games. It might be local television or ESPN4, one of the sub channels, but they're getting public, I guess, a following. They're getting a following through the high school games and stuff. So then they go to college. They get drafted into college, and that's where the stars are made. And it's usually those colleges pick up, like the franchise will pick up a player from that home state, you know? And then they get made into the franchise players. That's why you only ever see like one or two guys are the face of the basketball. It's usually, it was never just the Chicago Bulls. It was Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And now you get, it's LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, Kobe Bryant, Los Angeles Lakers, you know, Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns. It was always the franchise player. And that's kind of like the model, how it's worked around. It's very political, and the politics didn't work in my favor. So I kind of needed to recognize, do I want to be an older guy chasing this dream that's never really going to happen? Or do I want to put my energy into something else? And I was like, hey, what could I do? And I just started fighting. Literally, it was that. It was like 1 month doing nothing to next month, you know, doing a kickboxing sparring session or something like that. And I kind of jumped in head first, and it boded well for me.
So how old would you have been at this stage? And would you have ever done any striking or jiu-jitsu or wrestling, any kind of groundwork, martial arts up until that point?
So I stopped playing basketball at 25. And,
wow.
Yeah, I stopped playing quite early enough to know I was just wasting my time, you know? Not because I was quitting, but I'd realized I was able to identify that, okay, I could waste another 5 years and still be in the same position.
Yeah.
Or I can kind of jump ship and not quit, but redirect my energy. And I used to work on a door at a club with a guy who became my first coach, and he was one of Alex Reed's guys. Like him and Alex Reed from that same stable. we're all from the same area, and he kind of was like, oh, you should come. That same way you were saying about the basketball. Oh, you're big, you should come play. He was like, oh, you big guy, you should come down and train, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of, yeah, we'll do it. I was one of those guys. Yeah, I'll do it, and never do it, you know. So I eventually went down, and it was just like, I picked it up well. I think having an athletic background, I was able to kind of apply those same training principles, the ethic, and I picked it up pretty quick. And it's weird. It happened kind of quick. I mean, I took a fight within 3-4 months, something like that. It was real quick that I took a fight and just winged it. I was the king of winging. I was just winging everything.
So with that then, would you agree with the argument that age really isn't that much of a factor if you really have your heart set on something? Let's look at it in terms of fighting, because a lot of people, you know, especially we'll say with boxing, because young athletes start very young in boxing, by the time they're 25 or by the time they're finished their amateur careers, they're still quite young. And people think that, you know, to be in your mid-20s, late 20s, it's too late to take up a sport, especially a form of martial arts, and to fight competitively in it.
Yes. I do think that it's a mindset thing. I know it's so easy. It sounds like a generic sort of like, oh, positive mindset. You can do anything, believe, achieve, rubbish. Yeah, I'm not Deontay Wilder talking nonsense. But I do believe that if you approach things intelligently, like look at Floyd Mayweather said it smart, you know, the less you get hit, the longer your career will be. And I can't say I've been hit a hell of a lot in my career. Even in training, I try and keep it to a minimal, because your brain ultimately is the tool that is going to allow your body to function later on in life. And you want to protect that. Ironically, say coming from a fighter, you know. But if you're thinking, oh, okay, do you know what? I'm 41 and I want to give it a go because I see Yoel Romero can do it. You got to understand, he's not going in there and just biting down and swinging and taking shots to give shots. You know, he's a very evasive fighter. I think the intelligence, the approach in which you wish to get into it is really down to, or will be the turning point on whether you're going to be successful or not. If I go in and just start taking shots, my brain is going to be shot before you know it, you know, in training. Like, I see a lot of guys going so hard in training and their career's done by the time they reach 30. Like, their career's done, like they can't take a shot.
Well, it's a bit of a sort of a trend, isn't it? You know, especially with young guys, young egos, you know, want to get in there, want to spar hard, you know, sparring hard every week, every 2 weeks with teammates, and it doesn't seem sensible.
And I believe that's down to misinformation and bad guidance. I don't want to say bad coaching, because they might have a great coach who knows how to coach the art of fighting, but is not giving them good advice when it comes to preserving their body. Because this is a very short-lived career. And it's very important that you're able to recognize, okay, I'm walking down a path that is going to have me walking with a stick and in tremors. I don't want that. Do you want that? Do you, you know, you have to look at the bigger picture. Do you want to be known as the tough guy that needs aid and care to just go by in his day-to-day life? Or do you want to be known as the smart guy who had a really successful career and was able to leave and do something else productive, even if that productive thing is going to the park with the kids or your grandkids, and able to participate in some sort of activity with them or guide them. But if you're just like, you know, the very sad case is like Gary Goodridge. Gary Goodridge was a scary fighter, very successful, but he just didn't know when to stop, you know, and he took so much damage that sadly, look at the state he's in now. And I see that happening with a lot of guys. It happened with Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell needed to stop a long, long time ago before he did eventually stop. Let's discount this most recent fight that he had. But when you start getting dropped by shots that you used to be able to take 4 or 5 times in a fight, it wouldn't even trouble you. When you start getting dropped by those shots, I think you need to say, okay, might need to jump on something else now because I have more to offer. And sadly, not a lot of these guys believe in themselves outside of being a tough guy, you know?
That's definitely a very, very good point, in that a lot of fighters, I feel, have you know, a lot of their identity is wrapped up in who they are inside a cage or inside a ring. And so the prospect of that ending is a very scary thing for them. They'd rather take the hard losses, or, you know, to I suppose see their legacy kind of take a dip if they do have one in some kind of capacity. Because ultimately the fear of who they are or who they will become if they stop is too big.
Yeah. You know, I think too much pressure is put on fighters by themselves, not other people. I can only talk from my personal opinion. I'm not saying that this is everybody, but I know that as much as I enjoy providing an entertainment or an inspiration to fans or supporters, I also don't really pay much attention to what's being said, whether it's good. If it's good, I'll acknowledge it. I'll say thank you. If it's bad, I'll acknowledge it and I'll laugh. But if you take too much on board, then you can't be take on one on board and not take on the other. It's kind of like sitting on that fence is very difficult. So someone says something really positive, someone says something negative, they affect you both the same amount, but in different ways. And I try not to take that in. And, you know, you could say, oh, you're a great fighter. I'll be like, okay, thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. If you turn around and said, oh, you're awful, you're the worst, is that, you know, if I take the positive, I have to take the negative as well. So nothing anybody ever says really has an effect on me. I'm aware of it, but it doesn't have an effect on me to that point. And I think a lot of fighters, a lot of athletes in general, all sports, they tend to care so much about what other people think that they never really immerse themselves in that moment. They never really go and just enjoy it for them, because you're the only one in there experiencing that. That's yours to own. So own it. But they're worried about, oh, what meme are they going to become after that fight if they mess up? Care about that stuff. That stuff really does have a hold on people. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It does not matter. I just try and embrace it and laugh. You know, I always say, it's some advice to people, if something bad happens, be the first to embrace it. And then it's kind of like, well, if anyone makes fun of you, it's like, well, you did it first. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You know? Don't take yourself too serious. Yeah.
Take the power back, isn't that it?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
Well, let's look at your career. I mean, like, in terms of, you know, you've really have fought for some of the biggest organizations that are out there, that are still out there. What has been the biggest, I suppose, from a business element, the biggest sort of, the biggest thing that you've noticed, or, you know, from the perspective of, we'll say, the fans that watch you, they watch you on, we'll say, Glory, One FC, and all they get to see is kind of like the behind the scenes and the fight nights and the events. But I think it's very hard for them to understand what it's like for a fighter to actually get to fight and be a part of an organization of that scale, and what that experience is like.
Well, obviously there are different levels of professionalism. There are the shows that I'll try. I don't really, you know what? I'm not going to name names in a negative, because I feel like I always like to give people a chance to defend themselves. And if I'm just here bad mouthing, then, you know what I mean, they're not getting the chance. But there are some promotions that I've experienced that are all lights. Behind the lights, it's any other show, you know. But then there are promotions that treat you. There are the lights at the front of the curtain, and there are the lights at the back of the curtain. And they treat you with utmost respect and professionalism. I think the only thing that's really different will be the fight week. So if there's any young fighters that are on the lower shows and they're trying to build themselves up, the only thing that you're going to notice, that it's all run the same way. There's the same procedure. All the shows are run the same way. It's just the level of professionalism. You might think that, oh, you get to one show and you've got some massive locker room with a nice fluffy pink carpet, so your feet feel nice, and gold tap showers and that. None of that stuff exists. You're still. If you go to an arena, you're still in a toilet somewhere, getting changed. It just depends, right? It depends how it works out. So don't look forward to those sort of things, because ultimately it's better to not have them. I always find feeling kind of in the grit and the dirt keeps me in that competitive mindset. I don't want to feel too comfortable. If I feel comfortable, then I'm just going to be too relaxed. And if I'm too relaxed, you need to have an element of relaxation. But if I'm too relaxed, then I'm probably going to be, you know, just kind of, I'll be pussyfooting around, you know, and that I'd rather do that. I'd rather stay in a nice sweet post fight after I've done the job, you know? And that's usually what ends up happening. But in terms of it being different, yeah, there are levels of professionalism, but there is also that level of shows not really caring about you. They're caring about the product that you can provide. So I made a mistake on many occasions of thinking that you meant more than what you provide. Like, you as a person were going to get taken care of. They don't care about you.
Yes.
A lot of them don't care about you. They care about the money. And I get it. It's a business, right? They care about the product. As soon as you're done, see you later. On to the next one. And that's just how it is. That's just business, I think, in a general. But there also are the ones that they do look after you. You know, you do well, or you go out there and you're a good person, they recognize that, they take care of you. You know? It's all a mess. It's all a mess.
Well, the reason I was asking is because, you know, you've been in the sport for so long, and you've obviously seen the growth, and you've seen the changes, and people come and people go, and it's so fluid. You know, there's you know, it's ever changing, I suppose, and a lot of that, what I experience or what I hear from younger fighters is, and it seems to be a big issue, is that they really don't have direction in terms of, maybe they don't have management, they don't have good advice, they don't, you know, they're being offered fights, they're thinking they're good fights, they're thinking they're good opportunities, and they think that the people that are offering them the opportunities have their best interest at heart. Yeah. And that's you know, more often than not doesn't seem to be the case, you know. And it's a very sensitive subject, because fighting is such a personal, emotional thing that you know, you have fighters that are so kind of almost sensitive and heightened to situations. So it just seems like a kind of a what can be a toxic environment if it goes wrong.
Oh, 100%. These promotions, not all of them, but a majority of promotions as a whole, they're gonna have their own fighters. They're gonna have guys that they're putting on. So there's usually a gym affiliation with a promotion, you know. That's gonna be the A side. They're gonna be bringing guys in. You're gonna get guys that fight, but if they're trying to build somebody, they're gonna try and build that guy. So people get offered opportunities to go on Bellator and big kickboxing shows, and they don't realize they've been set up. They're thinking that this is an opportunity, and it's like, oh, you've got a great chance, and they'll throw a few grand at them when they're used to making 200 quid in ticket sales. They throw 2-3 grand, and they're like, oh, this is great, I got my chance. They don't realize, mate, they're putting you in there to get slayed. And then as soon as you've been slayed, you're done. That's it. We don't need you no more. Now you're just, you were a stepping stone, you were used, abused, and you're back on the small shows again. And I think that does more damage psychologically than it does to your physical representation of your career, because now the guy's thinking, oh, I wasn't good enough to make it. It's like, no, you just were played, mate. You were hustled. You didn't have good guidance. I think a good manager is important. It's not necessary if you're starting out, but it's important that you have some sort of guidance to know, okay, do you know what? These guys are going to snake you. These guys are giving you a genuine opportunity. Especially, you know, a lot of people, they think as well, they live in this sort of deluded idea that, oh, I'm tough enough, I could beat that guy. And if I beat that guy, I'll be the guy. I'll be the man then. But no, if you beat their guy, they're going to try and get you back, to put you back down. Or they're trying to have you back. Do you know what I mean? And it's sad, because the naivety, I think, has most alpha male egos say, no, but I can do it. I can do this. It doesn't mean that you're not tough. If you say no, you're not going to take that fight. It just means that you're kind of not really looking at the bigger picture. They've got a bigger picture. You're not part of it, you know?
Do you think there needs to be a little bit more transparency in terms of maybe the media on that, you know, it needs to be a little bit more, because fighters, I think, you know, although there's a lot of ego in there, there's also a lot of, you know, well, I'm not going to talk about that just in case it does hinder me getting an opportunity with them or with someone else going forward.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask that, because I genuinely have been I don't give a fuck type person all the time.
Yeah.
I value myself. I know what I can bring, and I know what I provide in terms of a show as a package. Don't mug me off. Like if I'm coming there and I'm doing something for you, don't mug me off. Don't take the piss. All right, cool. I just won't come. Like it's been like that. There's been cases like that. If you're gonna take the piss, I just won't come. I don't need you. And I think a lot of guys, a lot of people nowadays, athletes nowadays, are like, oh, but if I don't do this, if I don't bend over backwards for them, they're never going to use me. All right, cool. So what? They're never going to use you. Fine. Go and do other things. Do what you're doing. Focus on your career elsewhere. If you are a successful individual, they're going to use you again. But then they're going to have to come at you with a different approach. You just knowing self-worth. I think that's invaluable. It's really important. The power of no, the power of saying no is very important. And I'm happy never fighting again. Honestly, I'm happy never fighting again if everybody was giving me mug off offers. Give me a crap offer. All right, cool. Now I'm cool. I'll just crack on doing what I'm doing. But I know my value, so I know that people will offer me fights. You know, so not tying yourself down to being like in need. I don't need anything. I'll do it because I want to do it. But you're gonna have to pay me for it. And I think that's just genuinely my my thought process, and that's my advice to most people. You know.
I hear that. So alongside having that sort of like attitude or that sort of mental strength, I support, while looking at the business side of things, what else are you most proud about when you look back in your career?
Just doing it, just taking part, man. Like there's no win that I look at and I go, oh my God, that was amazing, because never once did I enter a fight thinking I wasn't going to win it. And when I lost, I may lost once, but when I lost, I was actually like, you can ask the guy I fought. Maybe you could get him on the show, Xavier Vigny. I was laughing and I was happy, and I just lost the fight because I realized in that moment that it didn't matter if I'd lost or I'd won. Nothing changed. I still felt the same. So I knew that me as a person, I could handle losing. And that I suppose maybe that was probably my favorite moment, because I realized I was going to be me no matter what. Win or lose, I was always going to be me, and I was going to be happy with that. So there's no particular moment other than that, but there's no like win I look back and I go, that was the best feeling ever. Just getting in there and taking part and knowing that I could do something that a lot of people can't, or not even that they can't, because they can, but a lot of people are afraid to do. And knowing that I take part and I do that and I do it well, that's an accomplishment, and I'm proud of that.
Absolutely. Well, while we were talking, everyone was sending in the questions, so there's a few questions in there, so I'm going to go in and have a look and see what's there, right? Let me filter through all of these. It can be so Valdor has said, Chopper's coming, but is he coming to the UFC? And if no, why not?
Who knows? Who knows? Do you know what? There's a lot of opportunities at the moment, and I'm not committing to one of them. I'm in a very zen state. What's his name? Valdor.
Yes.
Valdor. Okay, Valdor. I'm directing this to you. Yeah, I have a lot of opportunity at the moment. There's been talks with the UFC for like over 5 years. You know, I've had opportunities and I've turned down some opportunities that maybe I shouldn't have. But I believe that maturity is paramount when it comes to making a big decision. And that's a big decision in your career. It's a lot of people's life dream and goal. And I would never want to just take it willy-nilly and disrespect all of those that can't quite make it there. So if I'm going to make a decision to go somewhere really big, I want it to be a mature and informed, precise decision. And I'm still I've got some options, you know, and I want to see where my maturity is at before I make something of that magnitude a priority.
Good stuff. The fans do talk about it quite a bit, though, don't they? They really do want to see you in the UFC.
I do get it a lot, and you know, I've voiced that that's kind of where I want to go. But things happen in life, and things happen professionally and politically that changed that obviously the fans don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a few things that have sort of come up, and there's a few things that have sort of changed in my mind about what I want to do, and we'll just see. We'll see what opportunities come, man, because they're always coming. And I think you just because an opportunity comes, it doesn't mean it's the right one, and that you should necessarily take it. You need to be smart about these things, you know. I look like that might have been a vulgar question.
Yeah. You sometimes have to question, like, do people actually know that I'm going to be able to see these? But let's see. Scotty Bat 86 has said, "Are we ever going to get to see Chi versus Jon Jones?" And a couple of people have said in the comments, you know, is the beef with Jon Jones legit? Because obviously there was that thing a couple months ago. I don't like to talk about it because I'm not really into, you know, the whole trash talking and, you know,
talking thing.
I like to be more sentimental and, you know, but go on.
Well, it's I guess it's a topic, a current topic or an ongoing topic in MMA news. So Scotty, to answer your question, yes, the beef is legit. It's not at all a ploy to get clout or notoriety, or because if you do genuinely know me, I couldn't care if anyone knows me or they don't, or they do know me. Like it's not something that I need. I need some sort of attention. I don't care. If you like what I do, you like what I do. If you don't, you don't. It doesn't affect me either way. I just do what I do and hope to inspire somewhere along the way. Mm-hmm. Me and John had quite a few run-ins, but this dates back to like 2016. It's a long time ago when I was living in California with Daniel Cormier. John, I think personally, I just think it was, and it's something I have to answer because people always ask. But just to clarify, the guy was very rude to me. He was very disrespectful. He challenged me. We almost got into a fight backstage at an arena in Vegas. It nearly came to blows. And it just kind of stemmed from there. He we had a back and forth discussion. I don't want to say argument because I don't really do arguing, but there were some words said in a private message which I didn't like, and then I was blocked, so I couldn't respond. And I just said, all right, you know what, I will see you again one day, and when I see you, and that happened to be at the Body Power Expo. Someone said, hey, I was there with the sponsor, these guys, and someone said, hey, he's over there. So far be it from me to be someone to turn down an opportunity to confront the guy that has been talking nonsense to me in private messages. So I just approached him, and that's what that was. But not a lot of people thought that I just saw him and was just trying to start something. It's like it comes from an altercation. He was very, very disrespectful, very rude, and I don't really like that sort of stuff, you know. So I approached him, and that was it. That was the end of it. You know, I was never going to start a fight there. There were children there, and he is their role model, their idol. I would never want to do anything to disparage or tarnish that experience, because they might never see him again. And they got to see him, and that was like seeing, for me, maybe like seeing, when I was a kid, Michael Jordan or something like that, So I would never want to take that away from them. But at the same time, as a man, you've kind of got to face up to your actions, and that was it. I approached him, and that was it. Nothing's been said ever since, and maybe who knows what's going on with that. But that was that, man. I hope that answers your question.
But if fight was on the line, would you take it?
Oh, tonight, literally tonight. Just because, look, it's very simple. If somebody, you're an adult, if somebody approached you and was in your face, and then it got separated, and then they kept going back and forth, and they were badgering you, and they were really, really disrespectful to you in a message, right? Start talking about your family and stuff like that. Really disrespectful. When you next saw them, you'd put them in check, and you'd say, listen, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've done. You could be Mike Tyson in his prime. If I'm a man, which I am, I have to check you on that. Otherwise, you can basically just walk in my house, open my fridge, piss in my apple juice, and I just got to accept it. It's not going to happen. So regardless of what someone's ability is, I think out of respect, you have to approach them. And anybody, I would like to think that anybody would do the same. And that's what I did. So it wasn't me being disrespectful or being, it's just like me, listen, mate, you're not going to take the piss out of me. Here I am. What are you saying now? And that was that. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it would be fantastic. I would love, you know, I know that he loves challenges. So I just know that standing, I would destroy him. I know that. His only strength would be grappling. But I know his ego also would probably keep him standing. So, you know, man, boxing, kickboxing, if he wants to go, we could go. But at the same time, I understand he's got, you know, some personal demons to deal with right now. So I'm not trying to badger any of that. I'm let him deal with that and focus on more important things, you know?
Absolutely. Well, we can hope. We can hope down the line something comes together, right?
You never know. Yeah, you just never know.
Stranger things have happened, as they say.
Absolutely, yeah. If it's something people want, the people always make it happen. One way or another.
Absolutely. Another question has come in. Have you sparred Aspinall before? Is heavyweight MMA sparring hard to get?
I've never sparred him, no. Tom? Talking about Tom?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I've never sparred him. Heavyweight sparring is difficult to get, but then the weight doesn't matter. If you're like me, I tend to spar a little bit more intelligently. I don't do so much the hard sparring. I spar more like the ties, because I feel like if I can hit you at 40%, I can hit you at 100%. So I don't need to go 100%. So you don't really need, I tend to prefer sparring with faster guys, because then it makes me work defensively more. I don't need to practice hitting anybody hard. I already know I can do that. I don't need to practice getting hit hard. I already know I can do that too. So I like to preserve myself a lot more, and spar intelligently and just like more technical sparring. But if you want to get bashed around, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of big guys that are willing to give you a slap. You just got it ain't that hard. Just put a Facebook post out. I'm sure you'll find something.
They're out there.
Yeah,
right, we'll take one more. Emily Smith 27 has asked, if you could quarantine with 5 people dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, that's a good question. I like questions like that. Hello, Emily. Thank you for an intelligent question. All right, you're gonna have to help me keep count. Carl Pilkington would be number 1. Carl Pilkington's got to be in there. I love that guy. Carl Pilkington. All right. I can get 3 off the bat. Carl Pilkington, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's like my favorite actor. John Carpenter, because he's my favorite director. I'll be asking him questions about films. Jack Black. I think he'd be funny. He'd be funny to be around. See, I don't want to say dead, because that's really unrealistic. And the ones I'm saying, it might happen. You never know, right?
Yeah, dream big.
Yeah, it might happen. It's just fingers crossed. Who else? Oof.
One more slot. I'm trying to think of the dinner table. I am.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm thinking of the round table. I'm thinking. So we got Carl. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it'd have to be like, because I'd want it to be lighthearted. I wouldn't want it to be too serious. Yeah. You get politicians. I'd love to have someone like Jordan Peterson on there, but I think it'd just get too serious. Or Joe Rogan, and I think Joe Rogan would be a good one. Rogan would, I'd probably be Joe Rogan, because if we get some intelligence in there as well, you know.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan,
and then he'd have the banter as well.
Yeah, he'd have the banter, but he'd also be educating me at the same time. It'd be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
No problem. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And we'll see you soon. Looking forward to this all being over and everything getting back to normal, and hopefully some fight dates for you, and we'll meet again then.
I love it out in Ireland. I've been to Dublin lots of times. I've been to Cork as well, and I'm actually gonna meet one of my pals, Martin Maloney. We're gonna go the Hardy Bucks. We're gonna go out in Dublin at some point. So it'll be a nice time out there.
Brilliant. I hope there'll be a Guinness or 2 in that.
Yes, well, I've never had a Guinness in my life, so I think I'm going to save it for Dublin.
Oh, listen, I refuse. You have to come to Dublin. and have a Guinness.
For sure.
It's
For sure.
a prerequisite.
I'll document it. Pleasure.
Okay, Chi, thank you so much. Take it easy.
Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
All
You
right,
too.
bye-bye.